Today I'm going to show you two techniques which can be used to light a wood gas stove. First technique involves twigs. The twigs should be no thicker than your thumb. So that's an easy way to measure them. It doesn't have to be exact. So there I'm measuring this twig and it is about the right size. And I'm going to put the twigs into the burn chamber, and they should be about as tall as a burn chamber. Not too much taller. It's okay if they're a little taller, but ideally they fit perfectly into the burn chamber. So to make this job easier, I'm going to put the burn chamber of the stove on its side and then just stack the twigs into the burn chamber. It's really easy to do, and this way they don't fall down because gravity is holding them in the right position. So I just keep filling it up, and if the twigs are too tall, I take them out. So I don't fill the burn chamber completely full of twigs. I leave a little bit of space so that I get lots of airflow through the twigs. This stove is ready to be lit. I take a petroleum jelly coated cotton ball and I tear it open and spread it out like this, exposing the dry interior of the cotton ball, which will receive the spark. I will use a couple cotton balls to light the stove, just because I want it to burn really well. If the twigs are a little wet, you might need more petroleum jelly on your cotton balls and use more cotton balls. Now I'm using a ferro rod and I'm going to drop the spark right onto the cotton ball, and it lights beautifully. You can see it's burning. This is now the cotton ball burning. The cotton ball is going to ignite the twigs. The petroleum jelly coated cotton ball burns really well. It works kind of like accelerant, and it gets the twigs going in a hurry. Using this technique, it's very easy to light wood gas stoves. Now I'm going to use a different technique. I'm going to use split scrap wood and petroleum jelly coated cotton balls. This is the split scrap wood or lumber. You can see, just like the twigs, it is no thicker than my thumb. This is a plastic bag full of petroleum jelly coated cotton balls. They'll be used to light the fire. This is the scrap lumber. It is nice and dry, and it is about as thick as my thumb, no thicker. These are twigs. Again, they're about as thick as my thumb and no thicker. Now I'm going to take 4 petroleum jelly coated cotton balls, and these have quite a bit of petroleum jelly on them, and I'm going to rip them open and put them in the bottom of the stove in the burn chamber. So you can see, here they are, and I open them up and they are now ready for use. They're ready to accept the spark. I'm going to use a lot of them. I'm going to use 4 just because sometimes if the wood is a little damp, you need a little more accelerant and you need a couple more cotton balls. So these cotton balls have a fair bit of petroleum jelly on them, and I'm using 4 because I want a nice strong flame to sort of dry out the wood a little bit and get it going. I'm going to do the same thing with the other wood gas stove. I'm going to tear open the petroleum jelly coated cotton balls, and I'm going to put them right beside the stove so I can get at them very easily. The petroleum jelly coated cotton balls are sort of torn open and spread apart so that it is a lot easier to light them. It's hard to light them when the petroleum jelly is on the outside. You need the dry inside to receive the spark. Now I essentially have 2 handfuls of petroleum jelly coated cotton balls. And I put them into the burn chamber. There we go. Now I'm going to take the pieces of scrap wood or scrap lumber and lean them over top of the cotton balls, making sure that there's a little bit of cotton ball still exposed so that I can easily drop a spark onto it and light the fire. That's where the spark is going to go. I'm going to try and drop the sparks right on the exposed cotton balls, which I call a spark net. That's where the sparks are going to go. That's my target. That's where I'm going to drop the ferro rod spark. I'm going to try and drop it right onto the cotton balls. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but using a different fuel source. In this case, sticks and twigs. Again, the twigs are about as thick as my thumb, or thinner, and they get leaned over top of the petroleum jelly coated cotton balls, which have been ripped open and spread apart to form a spark net. So again, I'm going to use only a couple of twigs, not as many as I used in the first technique when I was lighting twigs. And I'm just going to use a few. So I'm going to use a lot of fire to dry out a few twigs. There they go, and I've arranged them, and again I've ensured that there's a little bit of exposed cotton or petroleum jelly coated cotton balls so that I can hit them with the ferro rod spark. That's my target. If all goes well, these stoves should light really easily. There you can see it from a higher angle. You can see the cotton balls, that's where the spark is going to go, and there's only a little bit of fuel in the stove so that the fire can really dry out the fuel. See, if you have to pull the cotton balls out a little bit and make sort of a little tongue or something that you can drop the sparks on, I call it a spark net. That's how you do it. Now I'm striking the ferro rod and I'm trying to drop a spark on there. Don't give up. It just took me a couple attempts, and cotton balls, or petroleum jelly coated cotton balls, are now on fire, and they're going to light this stove. You can see that's a nice big hot flame, and that's going to dry out the wood and light it. So I usually stand back a little bit once the stove is burning so that I don't have to smell the burning petroleum jelly. It'll burn out after a while. And it is now lighting the wood on fire. Now I'm going to take some long reach pliers once the stove is really burning nicely, and I'm going to add in some more scrap split lumber. This is going to work really well. This fire is burning nicely. Look at it burn. It's sparking a little bit because it's lumber, but that's okay. Now I take the pliers and I move the fire around a little bit, or the pieces of wood in the wood gas stove, so that I get a better flame. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the twigs. I'm going to take the ferro rod and drop a spark right onto the spark net, which is the ripped open petroleum jelly coated cotton ball. This time it took me only one attempt to light the petroleum jelly coated cotton ball on fire. And again, I'm moving around the pieces of scrap wood in the wood gas stove so that the stove burns better. Now, because this stove is burning well, I'm going to add in some more twigs using the long reach pliers. I keep adding them in because now the fire is hot and heat of the fire will ignite the twigs. Now I add the top onto the wood gas stove using the long reach pliers, which keeps my fingers far away from the flame so that I don't get burned fingers. I could also use welding gloves when I'm doing this. Now I'm going to keep adding in pieces of scrap lumber. You can see they're a little bit wet, but by now the fire is so hot it's going to dry them out quickly. I can add in lots by this point because the fire is so hot. Scrap wood does not smother the fire usually once you've got a good fire. Wood pellets can smother the fire. So you have to add in only a few wood pellets. Now I'm adding in the twigs, and that's working well. You add in only a few wood pellets at a time to stop the fire from being smothered. Now I'm going to add in some scrap lumber. You can see the stove is full of wood and it's burning brightly. This worked beautifully. Thanks for watching and have a great day.